Maybe all the logistics and planning behind a big wedding isn't for you. So why not elope and just have a day that's just as beautiful, but more your style? So elopements, they're becoming increasingly more popular. Stole that from you.
You got your line in.
I got my line in. It's awkward and uncomfortable and it didn't belong there, but that's okay because I got it.
You said it first, so it's like it's like you said that.
It is like I said that.
It is. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Don't give notes before the episode. Note to self.
Right. Because it's
Ryan
all fair.
Ryan will steal it.
All's fair in love, war, and podcasting.
Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, now we know.
Now we know.
Yeah.
Make a note. Put it in the show notes.
All right. Excellent. So we're going to talk about elopements today?
I suppose.
Sounds like a good plan.
Could not. You know, whatever.
Who knows? How much coffee you had today?
I'm only on, this is cup 2.
Obviously not enough.
Not enough. We're like in between that point where I'm like normal Ryan and snarky Ryan. Yeah. So it's a
weird place to be living in.
It's a weird place. Yeah.
Usually I like them to have a cup before I even wake up. I avoid snarky Ryan as much as possible.
But those mornings where I get up super early and I'm already a cup or two deep and then you're like waking up and I'm like, okay, let's talk about.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird too.
You're like, whoa, dude.
I'm not there yet.
You're like, hey,
I need you to bring it down.
You're up here.
Dang it, I was going to say that. Did you read my show notes?
I'm just in your head now. It's a scary place.
It's my head?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not good. I would get out.
Yeah. I'm trying. But I started at the end of the maze and now I'm trying to work my way back out, but it doesn't work that way. So
turns out going backwards is not working in this situation.
Right. It's not. I don't really know what's going on.
If you don't know what we're talking about, you obviously have not listened to our last episode. So you should go back and check that out.
And what are you doing?
And what are you doing if you haven't listened to every single episode?
That's right. You need to think about your life decisions.
All right.
So elopements, huh?
Elopements.
My favorite part of elopements
my
favorite part of elopements, before we even get into it, is that your dad still claims that he offered us to elope rather than have, our big traditional wedding. And I'm like, first off, have you met your daughter? Step 1. Step 2, no, sir, you did not.
I don't remember that, but I mean, It's possible he did.
He must have said it to you and not me.
And I was just like, and just kept on moving.
That is crazy talk.
That is crazy talk. Yeah, it's possible. You probably would have agreed.
I would have been like,
oh yes, please.
That sounds nice.
Yes, plean count me in.
That sounds nice.
Everybody, except me, I was like, nope. But if an elopement is for you, we're going to talk about that today. I do think they're pretty cool though.
They are cool. And it's really cool to see all the vendors that have embraced it and are, and it's becoming a big part of the industry.
Yeah, we have some really cool elopement photographers at Bustld.com. So
yes,
check
we
it
do.
out.
Yes, shameless plug. But no, it used to be people wouldn't do both. It was kind of like elopement specialty, and then there was, big traditional wedding specialty.
Yeah.
And now that's really blurring together. So you actually, for folks that are eloping, you can find the vendors that you're looking for, the ones that you see on Bustld or other places too.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And you can do something that's so unique to you. And obviously you have less cost because you have less guests. So you can A, save a lot of money, but B, also do something really, really cool for pretty inexpensive. So I love the trend. I think it's here to stay.
Yeah,
there you
I
go.
think so too.
I took your line and up the ante.
Up the ante. It's much better. Everybody forgot what I said now.
It's because you just blurted it out
randomly with no context
in the last episode. No, I'm just kidding.
All right, so to get down to business here,
let's do it.
All right, so we'll first start with the how. Or not really the how, really the where. So where would you have your elopement ceremony or elope to, or where?
Where? Okay. It can be anywhere. So you could do a traditional courthouse where you go to the courthouse and get married, which also makes for very cute pictures as well.
About 40% of couples get married at the courthouse.
No.
Little fun fact for you.
Interesting. That's a lot more than I would think.
Yeah.
At the courthouse, not just an elopement?
That's a good question. No. I'm thinking. That might combine the two.
Interesting.
I'm not sure. That's a good question. I'm not sure.
Okay, we'll get back to you guys on that.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, honestly, the destinations are endless. You could do something really cool locally. Maybe, you know, in Charlotte, breweries are huge. So maybe it's at a brewery or, you know, something like that. Or, of course, you can go to a location. I think a really popular thing in Charlotte anyways is to go to like Asheville, where you have like the mountain backdrops or, you know, the waterfalls and things like that. So you could go to the mountains, you could go to the beach, you could go to, you know, an island or Europe or things like that. So the destinations are literally endless.
Yeah, I mean, it's just your imagination at that point.
Pretty much, yeah.
So who
do you take?
comes? Yeah, besides your future spouse.
Yeah, so the two of you for sure. You definitely need those people.
You could FaceTime in, I suppose.
Yeah, really, that's all you need is those two people. Someone to officiate, and you know, if you need witnesses, some kind of witness, depending on where you're getting married. A lot of times people will include maybe like their immediate families or like one or two of their closest friends. So it might be like a small group of like, you know, 5 to 20 of you as like your elopement. I would, you know, it kind of just depends on how much you want it to be, you know, private. Like, do you truly want it to be just the two of you?
Right.
Yeah.
When?
You need way less time, so you could do it sooner. You could be like, hey, let's just elope, you know, next month, or you know, you don't need as much planning time. So it depends, I guess. If you're going to the courthouse, you could probably just go. You don't have to wait at all. If you're, you know, planning it as a destination, you need a little more planning time. Maybe, you know, unless you're ready to just like book a flight and do things on a whim like that. I mean, there's really no rules. It just takes less time overall. You don't have as many moving pieces.
Right.
You don't have as many schedules to coordinate. So it could happen a lot quicker. I think something else that's really common is doing an elopement like during the week or like kind of like an off-peak day, not doing it on a Saturday. So doing like a Wednesday or Thursday. That's something I know happens a lot in Charleston. They do like middle of the week. I feel like our Charleston photographers are like literally shooting weddings like Monday through Sunday. Like
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. So like they do weddings, like especially a lot of elopements during the week, and which Charleston is a great destination. So you don't have as many people who need to take like work off and you have to think about. You really get to be a little more selfish almost in a way, like just, hey, this is what we want. We're going to do it. And it doesn't really matter, you know, if it works out for my grandma because she's not coming, you know?
Right.
So it's like kind of a chance to truly do what you want, which is pretty cool actually.
Well, then to actually go back to the who then. So do you typically bring your immediate family and then like in your grandparents and all those folks, or is it?
If you want to, I don't think there's necessarily.
There's no really rules around it.
A lot of times it's just the two of you. I think it depends on what you're looking for, you know, like I have a lot of couples who want to have a ceremony that's just immediate family. And that's why they end up, you know, wanting to do an elopement of some kind and then come back and have a big party. So it depends on who matters for you to be there. Like, can you see yourself getting married without grandma and mom and dad and everyone like that there? Like you just want it to be the two of you on the top of a mountain having like that, you know, intimate, private vows kind of moment. Or can you like literally not imagine yourself getting married without having your parents there? In which case, yeah, you should bring them. So another thing to think about is like, are your parents going to be really mad? Are you going to hurt their feelings? You know, like if they've been waiting their whole lives to, you know, go to your wedding,
right.
There's no rules, but I mean, do you want to like break your mom's heart, you know, if that's like where she is? So then you're going to want to kind of schedule things like around immediate family.
Yeah.
So I think most of the time people include someone else, you know, family or close friends or something. Usually I would say it's a small group, you know, like under 25, but there's no rules. Yeah. Just, if you just want to go down to the courthouse and get married, just the two of you, then why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So as far as like when you're planning it, obviously the scale's not anywhere near the same, but you still have to plan. You still need vendors. So what vendors do you need to target?
I would say absolutely you still want to have a photographer. You probably need them for less hours. So even if they're like you were talking about, like not an elopement specific photographer, ask them, like, do you have smaller elopement type packages, even if they don't advertise that?
It might not be on their site.
Yeah,
but
they probably do.
Yeah.
Especially if you're doing like a Wednesday for 2 hours kind of thing.
Of course.
Yeah. Then they're definitely going to probably be more flexible than on like a Saturday.
A Saturday in October, probably not.
Right.
But yeah, but a Tuesday in July, Probably available.
Probably. And then typically, attire, you don't have to wear traditional attire if you don't want to, but you're going to want something that maybe, different than your normal day-to-day jeans and a sweater.
Yeah.
Maybe not, but traditionally I would say at least attire and photographer is what you're going to need. And then after that, it's kind of open to you. A planner can be great, especially if you're not getting married locally, if you're going to a destination. So like maybe someone who specializes either in elopements or someone who specializes in that market. So that can be really helpful, especially if you're planning from afar.
Do planners have better pricing for elopements typically?
I would think so.
I would think so too, right? Be less hours on.
Yeah, we don't really do a lot of elopements.
Right.
But I would imagine, like, especially in your destination cities, that they would.
Yeah.
Or something. It's usually less work.
If it's less work, then it should be, right.
Yeah.
Just curious.
Again, if it's a Saturday, it's probably different than if it's a Wednesday elopement.
And don't quote us because Samie doesn't do them, so we don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. So send your hate mail to Ryan@Bustld.com.
Oh.
See how I did that?
You spell that Samie.
Exactly. So flowers. You might not need a traditional florist, but you might want to hold a bouquet or something like that. That could be an option. Invitations, if you do an invite for anybody else or you want to have some kind of elopement announcement. I know that the photo brief, who is one of our photographers, one of our vetted photographers, has some really cute elopement pictures. And one of them is like a picture of an elopement announcement that just like sticks out of my head. So go check that out.
We should use that for the... when you're writing your
we'll make sure to include that picture. And then if you want to do like any kind of after party, you might need like rentals or a baker, or, a venue at that point. So whether that's the same day or, later date, those are kind of other vendors you might need. So you could still need a whole vendor team. It would just be slightly different.
But again, going back to the original podcast, about budget, it's the guest count that's driving a lot of the cost.
It is, yeah.
So, okay. So you sort of alluded to this, but how can it still be pretty?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all about like the location you pick, which could still be the courthouse. I've seen a lot of really cool courthouse elopements that you know have like cute pictures inside, and then they go outside and do all these adorable pictures on like at the front of the courthouse, or maybe there's like a park nearby. So the location can make a huge difference on how beautiful your pictures are. And then, do you add some kind of decor? Like it's just, maybe it's 20 of you, and instead of doing, white folding chairs, you can bring in like pew benches or soft seating at your ceremony or things like that you couldn't definitely, maybe would blow the budget for 200 guests, but for 20 guests, you could make work. So it definitely depends. Like if that's kind of the vibe, you want like a more traditional look to your wedding, but just like want to spend less money and have it go further, then you could do some really cool things with like your arbor and your ceremony. I mean, a big focus for the elopement is on the ceremony, obviously. Right. So you would want to put your money there.
Yeah, I remember it's been a few years, and I actually don't know her, but Katie Levins at the Charlotte Agenda, she did that at the courthouse, and I remember seeing the pictures and being like, that was really pretty. I think those
are the pictures I was maybe thinking of. Yeah. Totally pretty.
Yeah.
So it can be really awesome.
So how do you include your family and friends without inviting them? Yeah, because I feel like that's going to create some hurt feelings.
I think it's all in setting expectations and how you communicate things.
It's just your Sammie's rules for life.
You like this?
Work backwards and set expectations.
Pretty much. Those are my rules for life. So I think it's all about setting expectations. I would call your closest friends and family, the people you would have invited if you had a big wedding, and let them know, like, you are so important to me. We've decided we're doing a super intimate elopement. And because it's just really important for, just us to be there or just our parents to be there or whatever. But we're going to celebrate you with you in other ways. So there's lots of other ways that you could celebrate with them. What a lot of couples do is throw like a big reception when they get home or maybe like a month or two later. So that can be like a really good low key way to kind of include everybody. You could go out to dinner if you did like that intimate ceremony, and then you guys could all go out and, grab a bite to eat and invite all the people you would have invited to like a regular, big wedding. You could celebrate with them all, like, after you get elopement, when you get all your pictures back, you could go out with all your closest friends and family and show them pictures and tell them about the experience. So I think it just depends on who those people are and how you can manage their feelings in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've sort of touched on a couple of these as we've talked, but let's dive a little deeper on kind of the pros and cons of the elopement. I think from a pro perspective, the one off the top is it's just easier to plan. It's less stress. And if you really think about it too, and this, I don't know, it's maybe shouldn't say this, but if you really think about it, and it goes back to our last podcast, if you're eloping like that, you're really paying attention and focusing more on the ceremony itself, which is actually the point of the wedding and the marriage, right? So I don't know. So,
it's pretty cool. Yeah. Because you're kind of getting the best of both worlds. Like there's a lot of couples who are like, I would just love to have my ceremony with just, a few people, but then I can't have my reception after because you're going to hurt people's feelings and all these things. So this is like a good way to do that. It's like a good way to have like your ceremony with like your closest people, but then celebrate with all the other people who are super important to you. Just maybe, not your parents or your best friend since you were, 5 or something. So I think it's more intimate too. Like that's the word I was trying to think of. That's the word you're at. Yep. So it's more intimate. It's easier to plan, save money, unless you have like a huge party that's elaborate afterwards, then maybe not. But it also gives you a chance to really personalize things.
Yeah.
You can go to, Italy and get married in a vineyard without the cost of trying to expect, 200 people to follow you to Italy and things like that. So you can really personalize it and make it true to you guys as a couple for a lot less expensive.
Yeah, the intimate thing, that speaks to me because, I mean, just, I don't know, you get to spend more quality time with people.
Yeah.
That speaks to me.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And it's more flexible. Like you don't have to keep in mind like everybody's schedule and that it has to be on a Saturday because people have to work on Friday and they have to work on Monday. Like you take a lot of...
We're talking everybody out of doing a big wedding now.
I know. Everyone's like, I'm eloping. Which if you're planning a big wedding at some point will probably cross your mind.
100%. What are we doing? So some of the cons, for me, I always thought when you always hear elopement, I think a con of it is there is a stigma around it, right? That you're going to Vegas and getting married by Elvis sort of thing, right? Like there is that stigma. And I think that's starting to fade.
It is, but yeah.
But it still is, especially like in the, the older crowd.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And also it does hurt feelings sometimes, like we kind of alluded to.
Absolutely.
We kind of talked about that a little bit, but you don't also have that chance to have like all of your family and friends, like, like with a big wedding, with any wedding, no matter what the size, like this is probably the only time you'll have both sides of the family and all of your friends in the exact same room. So even if like a sibling gets married, it's not the exact same crowd.
No.
So like this crowd will only all be together on this day, you know? So like you kind of miss that. You don't necessarily miss that feeling. You just miss it with like as many of those people.
Right.
And you definitely don't get that like bride feeling, or groom feeling or whatever. Like you're not like going to all these appointments and picking out flowers and picking out, tablecloths and things like that, which maybe is like super appealing to you. So maybe you're like, actually put that in the pro column.
Yeah.
But if that's something, or if you've been planning your wedding since you were little,
right.
Those are things like just to keep in mind. Like you definitely don't want to be disappointed. Like, oh my gosh, I just can't make one more wedding decision. So we're just going to elope, even though like you've been dreaming of this big wedding since you were, 10. So I think making sure that it's like in line with what you truly want, and you're not just doing it out of like, oh my God, I can't anymore.
Well, anecdotally, so we've been interviewing lately, and we've one of the, I don't know if we haven't talked about this. I don't know if one of the answers you get on about working at Bustld in the wedding industry, the one answer I get very frequently is I've been planning my wedding since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
I've been hearing that a lot. So in that case, that
and I hear that a lot when I'm talking to couples too.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. A lot of couples, a lot of brides have Pinterest boards long before they get engaged. So that I know people have Pinterest boards when they're not even dating that person yet, so people do. I feel like you used to have like boxes of stuff or pictures. Like, so I do think a lot of people are imagining that. And if you're imagining that, you don't want to do an elopement just because you just can't make any more decisions, or you're just feeling overwhelmed, or any of that stuff. And you don't get to do, food tastings.
Right. Or cake tastings.
Cake tastings.
Well, you still would.
Not if you're not having a cake.
Why would you not get a cake? That's crazy talk.
Crazy talk.
Why? That doesn't even make sense.
So yeah,
just because you're eloping doesn't mean you don't need a cake.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
So
on that note,
there's a lot of pros, there's a lot of cons. I think ultimately, as in anything with wedding planning, it boils down to what speaks to you as a couple.
Yeah, it's what's right for you guys. I think that's the most important takeaway of everything is if it feels right for the two of you, then you should do it.
Yeah.
Whether you're going to hurt feelings or any of those things, you got to do what's right for the two of you.
Yep.
It's your day and it's your start of a life together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So as always, what are your key takeaways, key tips for our couples as they're deciding to do, to elope or not?
Well, first, do think about the pros and the cons of what that means. True of a big wedding too. Think of the pros and cons of that and then decide which camp you're in. And then, make sure that you, even if you decide to elope, that you do still have to do some planning. So don't just, fly by the seat of your pants, sit down and come up with a plan and make some decisions of who's going to come and where you're going to do it and things like that. And then, kind of take it from there.